Tonight on the Mac to the Future Go livecast, China is very angry indeed with Apple. And what? 32-bit app programs don't work with the newest version of the macOS? Outrage! And are you ready for a new iPhone SE? Well, don't hold your breath because chances are it won't be called that anyway. Tonight, that and more, all on the Mac to the Future livecast. Go, Halloween style. Oh, darn it, I missed the button. Yes, it is the Mac to the Future livecast Go, or is it Mac to the Future livecast Go livecast? I always screw it up, but doesn't matter. I'm here. Warren is here. Let me show you all Warren. Here's Warren. There he is, right there. Hello, Warren.
Hey.
Oh, nicely said, sir. How are you?
That's what he said. Don't touch me there. No, I'm good.
Don't touch him there.
Stop touching me. Will you stop touching me?
I am. Dave is not with us. He is still in Texas. And speaking of Texas, I was just in Texas attending a wedding.
But me. No, I was not in Texas.
Well, you missed some interesting times. Okay. The wedding was fun. It had the bride's father's speech at the reception after the wedding was interesting. He and the bride's mother are no longer married, and the bride's mother was there with her husband, who she's been married to for like 10 years, and the bride's father is a divorce lawyer. So It started off really well. You know, he talked about lock the doors because he had things to say. And, you know, sometimes when people say that, it's kind of like, should I be looking for alternative exits to get out of here? But true to his word, he had a lot to say. He spoke quite eloquently on how long marriages should last, which is 60 years. He was very definite. Marriages should last 60 years, at which point my son and I were saying, well, what happens at that first day after 60 years? Do you both just drop dead? Do you just kind of, wave to each other as you walk out the door? It's like, sorry, we're done. It's 60 years.
You shake hands and say it's been excellent.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks for the kids.
6 years.
It's
all good. Hey, I like that idea.
It went downhill from there. The bride, he spoke for about 15 minutes. The bride tried to hug him down to get him to stop talking. It didn't work. The crowd tried to clap him down. It didn't work. There were 3 attempts to get him to stop talking. None of them worked. It was undoubtedly, I wish I had been recording. It was undoubtedly the most awkward and best wedding speech that I have ever experienced in my entire life. Just from the sheer WTF of the entire thing. It was brilliant. So
just real quick, I had a strangely similar one, but my friend had a 50th birthday. My wife was planning her birthday party with the husband, and it's all going good. So we did the party, except one guy that they invited from his work, got really, really drunk. And these are like 50-year-old people.
Right.
And it was...
Who should know better?
He must have been drunk before. I don't know. anyways, I was recording. They actually asked me to record the speeches and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I used my new phone to do that, which was great. But maybe I'll post some of it. The drunk guy, like while they're giving speeches, just kept doing loud noises and occasionally going up while they're doing the speeches and hugging them. And like nobody knew what do you do? It's like you go away, you can't say it. So it was
well, at least he's a happy drunk. It sounds like he was a happy drunk.
Well, he was happy. He made a lot of people not happy, though.
Okay, well, you know? that's a common occurrence at these kinds of things.
Yeah, that's why I don't drink anymore. So there you go.
Yeah. I stopped when I guess I was like 22. I mean, I still drink on occasion, but you know, never to excess. I was at some bar in Ohio. And I saw somebody walk by who I thought I knew. So I grabbed him, called him a son of a bitch, and slammed him into a wall, and then realized I had no idea who this person was. And probably fortunately, I am a very large person, and I talked him out of trying to hit me, which was good because I was really drunk, and he probably would have kicked my ass. Anyway, let's talk about Apple stuff. Yeah. Right.
Good.
Apple removes Taiwan flag emoji in a possible attempt to appease China. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I'm kind of following. It's it's one out of a long string of stuff happening. There's a flag, and before that, they had a song in iTunes that's sort of a Chinese protest song that was in there, and before that, they had an app. They had an app that tells the location of police officers and protesters. So Apple removed the app.
Well, the first app.
The first app. Then they removed the song from iTunes. And now they're removing the flag. So like China is pissed at Apple for allowing these things in. And Apple's like, all right, we'll just, it was never there. We're sorry, kind of thing. Because they need to
what is that? I mean, Apple, what is Apple supposed to do? You know, unless China has some clear guidelines, and it's not like whoever it is that's in charge of putting content in China, they don't want to lose their job. They have to show cause as to why something can or cannot go in, and they're expecting to hear it from corporate. I mean, that's the way things work there. And if they don't hear it from corporate, they're going to pass it through. So,
right. But these things happen. I mean, other companies do things at countries or politicians.
Yeah,
or something
we're gonna get into that in just a second. Google may release a 5G Pixel getting the jump on Apple. Yeah, the 5G that everyone has access to, that almost no one has access to. But Google's going to have a phone out there first. So, you know, hooray for Google, except Samsung already beat you to that as well. Is a new, smaller iPhone getting ready for a 2020 release? Now, they have all the bases covered based on the previous gen phones. So they have replacements for the 10 and the 10R. And then they have budget phones with the 8 and of course refurb 7s and all the rest of that. But there hasn't been like a small phone since the iPhone SE, which was essentially a pared down version of the 6S, I think it was, or was it the 6?
It's a 5. It was the same size.
It was the same body shape as the 5, but it had like the internals of either the 6 or the 6S.
6 or 7. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
So they don't have a small phone currently.
No. And Minji Kuo, who's saying this, is not convinced that it's going to be a small phone either. They're trying to blur the lines of whether
another big phone. I mean, really?
I mean, what's big anymore? I mean, it's like I think the regular 10s and or the regular Pro and not the Max. It's not a big phone. I would say it's not as small as the SE is, but it's not big. It's certainly pocketable. And the rumors are saying that they're not going to bring out another small one. It's just going to be maybe a cheaper version of maybe like an 8 or something like that, maybe a smaller 8. Who knows?
Well,
But
I think that would just
these are all
cannibalize existing sales
these are
instead of
just rumors
serving yet
too.
another. Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. All right.
Yeah, so
Well, let's get on to the main stories. The first story is China. This is a story from AFP.com.
China.
Careful how you say that. Official Chinese media seems a bit tiffed at Apple for various reasons, and they've thrown the NBA into it as well. The NBA drew China's ire with a tweet from Houston Rockets GM Daryl Morey backing the pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. Many believed that the NBA caved with tweets backing off from Morey's statements, but then NBA Commissioner Adam Silver stated while in China that the NBA supported freedom of expression, and China essentially melted down. Houston Rocket games have been suspended from broadcast in China, as has 2 other preseason games, possibly including one that was to be played in Shanghai, and then a rematch of these 2 teams. It was the Boston Nets and someone else. I can't remember who it was. And Shenzhen was the other city that these 2 preseason games were going to be played in. Apple, on the other hand, drew Beijing's ire with the approval of another transport app that China claims can allow Hong Kong protesters to identify police. Other foreign companies have been warned to stay out of China's political problems with Hong Kong. So this thing with Hong Kong has been going on for about 4 months now.
Yeah.
And considering China's previous attempts at shutting off protests, Tiananmen Square comes to mind. There's been a couple of other ones through the years. They typically go in with like both barrels. Hong Kong is kind of a special case since for 100 plus years it was a British protectorate, turned back over to Chinese control in 1999 under some conditions that it would remain a autonomous province, kind of left to do its own thing. And for the most part, that deal has worked out very well for both Hong Kong and China, since a lot of foreign companies do business through Hong Kong. However, it seems that China wants to exert more control over it and is starting to kind of put their foot down, which is kind of drawing the ire of the people that live in Hong Kong that consider themselves separate, or a lot of them consider themselves separate from the rest of the mainland. So what do you think?
I don't blame China, only because it's a violent situation. There's a lot of violence during this protest. So there's that. And then, if you flip it around and let's say Samsung, during when our president was just elected, we had the women's marches and with their hats and the pointy-ear hats and stuff like that. If they if like a organization in China or Samsung tweeted out some kind of support to them, I guarantee our government
a lot of companies
would not
did.
like it. But I'm sure Trump would tweet something like "You guys are idiots," and don't
Well,
do
of course
that.
he does. That's what he does.
What he does. But if these turned, for some reason, if it turned violent, if these women started, beating,
Which
people
many
up
of
with
them
bats,
have. Many of the protests have turned violent. For
not
various
like China,
various reasons. No, not to the degree
or China.
of what's going on in China.
So if it was sort of to that degree, and it was that public on the media and things like that, and this other country was sort of supporting them and tweeting them and things like that, I think the country might have a problem with it. Whether we could tell them not to do that, it's. Well,
we
I mean, we can, but you can.
Not really.
We could say, dude, if you keep doing that, you're not allowed to. We're banning Samsung in the U.S. Okay,
No,
we'll stop.
the U.S. government cannot do that. They can't, for political reasons, tell a company that they can no longer sell their products in this country. That's not the way it works. They can't do that.
Well,
Whereas
China's not doing that to us, or are they? They're just
they
mad.
are. I mean, they just banned. There were two. I don't even know if they're still going to be played. There were two games that have already been scheduled to be played in China, and a fan event that's definitely been canceled. And the mere fact that a general manager of an NBA team said something in support of the Hong Kong protesters has made China cancel all Houston Rockets games and potentially cut off all NBA games in its entirety from China. And they've warned other countries.
But that's different than allowing sales. I'm sure if the roles were reversed, I am sure our government and Trump could find a way to say, we're not playing the Chinese Ping Pongians League world champion that we were going to let you play here. You can't come. Basically, is what you're saying.
I don't think they would do that based on somebody on the Ping Pongian team in support of something else. If it was directly from the Chinese government, that might be something different. But these are private citizens that are saying these things. And that's the part that's kind of drawn the ire, where it's like, this is not the official position of the U.S. government. These are private individuals that are employed by private companies, and they have opinions.
But the government's the one that's upset about that. And again,
the Chinese government yes.
In role reversal, what I'm saying is, let's say our million women march with the hats got really violent and was still going on, and the Chinese ping pong professional league tweeted out something that was in support of them, and they were supposed to come over here to play a couple games. I am pretty sure we could, and I'm pretty sure Trump would put a stop to them coming, and I think he could. And I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm not saying that's right or wrong either. I'm just saying, basically China's saying is stay out of our crap, and just stay out of our crap. It's not your, Apple, get those things off your store. We don't want people downloading music that's going to pump them up for the rise.
And that's their right. Those are their laws. So Apple, they're not even in a Kobayashi Maru kind of situation here where they can kind of get around it by doing this. They have to follow the laws of the countries that they sell either their hardware or their services in. That's just the way it is.
Was there any law? I don't know if it was a law thing to ask them to remove that song. If
the Chinese government says remove something, you can bet that if it's not removed, that a law will be happening to make them remove it.
But we could do that here too. If they had an app that we don't like, we could make them remove. If they had an app
and if it was a dangerous app, then we certainly have, but not the kinds of apps that there have been a lot of apps that have been banned from iOS, but not for political reasons. It's mostly been for content, or because the apps themselves were dangerous to the hardware or would compromise security.
Well, this app in question is dangerous to the political climate of China, and that's why.
That was their interpretation of it, but the app itself wasn't created for those purposes. It was just something that you could use the app for. Yeah,
and they. I think they have the right to say don't have it in there, and obviously,
of course they do.
They did, and Tim Cook said, "Okay, we're
we
fine
had
with
no
that."
choice."
Right.
All
so, right. Anyways, I think they have a right to say that, whether China is different than the U.S., and I think you're right that the U.S. would never, if role was reversed, we would never tell anybody to not voice their support for a certain group here or there, because we're America and we like that.
America. So, Derek Ian Two, is that how that's pronounced, Derek? If I misspelled it or if I mispronounced it, I'm sorry. He says that would be like removing Waze here in the U.S. And there was a lot of talk about removing Waze because one of the things that Waze does is identify speed traps. And so, so there were a lot of jurisdictions that weren't happy about that. Because it was like, well, we're not getting, the ticket revenue, I guess, from our speed traps like we were before. But they didn't too. Okay, thank you. But they didn't remove it, and they couldn't remove it because there wasn't anything illegal about what the application was doing in any sense of the word.
It's a slippery, like let's say when marijuana becomes legal in your state, there's going to be apps out there that's going to say where to find the best dispensary, and it's not going to go over well. It's going to be the same thing because that's already happening in the states where marijuana is legal. Right, but the public, mothers and parents aren't going to like that. I don't want my kid able to go on their phone and find the closest dispensary and the cheapest one. I don't want them doing that. So I mean, there's always going to be some kind of pressure, and the speed trap is a good example of that. So
yeah.
All right, let's go.
All right. Moving on, because we are about out of time. There are many problems with macOS Catalina. This is a story from laptopmag.com. Unsurprisingly, there are some reported issues with Catalina. While this is hardly news, some of the reporting of these issues are over the top with problems that were going to happen regardless, mostly because developers hadn't updated their apps to 64-bit support, even though they've known for a very long time that Catalina would no longer support 32-bit applications. In the article linked, DJs are warned that if they rely on iTunes XML file support, the new Apple Music app doesn't, and therefore will not operate as before. Some app DJs rely on that only use XML files also won't work. Any programs that still use 32-bit as part of their application will be broken. Adobe, which has had a long time to fix their crap, has listed a series of applications that cannot be used by Catalina. While nice to know, probably would have been better time spent updating those apps. So this is, here's the thing, guys. From the moment that Catalina was announced last year, they told all the developers 32-bit support is going away. And if, as a developer, you either wouldn't or couldn't update your applications, don't cry to your users that it's not your fault that your app doesn't work anymore. And a good example of this is Steam. Steam as a game client has the client itself is 64-bit, and they just updated it. 64-bit compliant and will run easily in Catalina. However, most of the games, including ones that Steam directly control, are still 32-bit and won't work. So I haven't updated the Catalina on this machine yet. Ooh, excuse me. I have on my laptop, and it runs fine. It doesn't run some of the old games, and I expected that.
There's a lot of abandonware that people are using too, and I'm sure a lot of those games that you're talking about hasn't been, the developers who made them are probably 90 years old and it's a computer kind of thing. So it's
Left 4 Dead, man. That's like my jam. I need that.
When that came out a long time ago.
It was but then there's Left 4 Dead 2, and it's been a long time since they came out.
So
but I enjoy
a lot of stuff. The developers, they're not. Hey, I had a game on. It was on DOS that I loved, and it was. God, it was some kind of racing game, and there was a guy who looked like Paul Schaefer who said, "Sorry, Enforcer. it was you lost. Like he would come. It was like a video of him, and it was like great at the time because it was video, you know.
But completely pixelated.
It was pretty good though. But it was this great racing game, and then on
Wasn't
my PC,
Carmageddon, was it?
it wasn't. It was like Carmageddon.
I love that game. That was another good game.
And then after that was Pod Racer, the Star Wars Pod Racer game.
Yeah,
that came out. That was like future stuff. I mean, so I miss those games. I actually tried to find them online, and it's just hard.
yeah.
So I mean, anyways, stuff happens. Progress happens. Things won't run anymore. I mean,
and Apple, which controls both the hardware and the software, is going to drag everyone kicking and screaming into 64 bits, whether we really want them to or not. But it's a necessary move to keep the platform relevant, and developers who won't update their applications, you know what? You're just gonna go away. That's just how it works.
I've been on the beta cycle for Catalina since the beginning, and same with iOS, and it was a rough beta season, much worse than the last 2 or 3 years. But I put the final on both my laptops, like Catalina. I did sort of a quasi fresh install of a lot of stuff, and it's there. It's pretty good. I haven't noticed any problems actually. Once in a while,
I did the last beta before the Gold Master came out on my laptop, and other than 32-bit apps, everything worked pretty flawlessly for me. Things seemed a little snappier, but that could also be because it was a fresh install. Yeah. But it just seemed like things just worked the way that it was supposed to, as long as the applications themselves were Catalina ready. And that's really what it comes down to. Are the applications that you rely on Catalina ready? And if they're not, and a lot of these are going to be Adobe products, then you're either going to have to hold off on upgrading to Catalina or find alternatives to the applications that you use already.
Yeah, and you know, as pressure builds and more people upgrade to Catalina, Adobe and some of these other people are going to go, whip these developers into shape.
Well, they have to.
Yeah, I mean,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that a company the size of Adobe, knowing this was coming, didn't have their ducks in a row.
Yeah, they're slow, but by the end of December, everybody's going to forget about this, and everybody will be happy and everybody will be updated, I'm sure. So it's just because what's going to happen is people are going to find alternatives to these programs, and that could be a problem too. So if somebody has Adobe and it doesn't work, they might go to the
Pixelmator or Acorn or depending on what your needs are.
Few good ones, yeah. So I mean, they'll lose money. They're on a subscription model, so if they don't get their stuff in order, then people are going to drop them and find somebody else. So they'll get there.
I did a long time ago.
Yeah, my son has a subscription. He doesn't use it, but whatever.
Yeah, I refuse to update. I had Elements versions of Premiere and Photoshop, and I just wasn't using it, so I didn't update because it was from 2018, I think. I didn't update to the 2019 version. I don't see any reason to update to the 2020 version. And frankly, if I went to Catalina, I don't think either one of those versions would work at this point anyway, until Adobe updates them.
I open up the Photoshop and I see all the tools up there, and my brain starts to hurt, and I close it really fast. I'm like, I don't know what I maybe know what that lasso and pencil do, but that's it. Everything else is like, I don't. So just give me MS Paint. I'm good.
MS Paint.
That's my jam, man. You should
try Acorn. Acorn is a really, really good, easy to use photo manipulation program without a ton of tools, but the tools that most people probably want. Anyway, why don't we close it down for the evening? And I would tell people
Giants are playing. I gotta watch my Giants game.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I would tell people that that they should contact you in certain ways, but
Don't touch me there.
Don't touch me there. So just on Facebook.
I'm on
That's it.
Facebook. Yeah, that's it. I'm nowhere else. Actually, I'm not even in real life.
It's virtual Warren.
It's not me.
Every once in a while, you'll just see him go.
People come to my house and then I just won't be. They'll see the computer and they'll see my reflection, but not me. They just won't be here.
Well, if you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is guy@mymac.com. My Twitter handles is R Mac Parrot or Vert Shark. I have 2 other podcasts besides the Mac the Future podcast. I have the MyMac Podcast. We are coming up very, very quickly on our 500th episode, where we will be giving away some. I don't even know if you can call them iTunes gift cards anymore, but that's what it says on the little plastic front of it. $25 iTunes gift cards. Ooh, we're spending big money.
We need a bumper, right? You got to create a bumper.
All you got to do is send us a bumper. The other thing is, and you can be as insulting as you want. We like to be insulted on the MyMac Podcast. I also do, though I haven't done one in a couple of weeks because I've either been away or sick. Guy's Daily Drive, which I don't do every day, but I am driving a car, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad. What else? If you'd like to help support me, and some very fine people have, you can you can buy me a coffee at coffee.com, ko-fi.com/MacParrot. You can become a regular Patreon. Patreon.com/MacParrot. And I also have I don't have it listed here. I have I keep wanting to say eBay. It's not eBay. It's
PayPal?
PayPal. Thank you. PayPal.me/MacParrot. I am an old man and I don't always remember the things that I should.
I talk like a pirate. I talk like a parrot.
Parrot. Where is it? It's all of us. Got to hit the all of us button. There we are. So I think, also almost forgot, Dave Ginsburg, who isn't here, he's with us in spirit. He is stuck in Dallas at the Dallas airport. So I will give him his plugs. His Twitter account is DaveG65. He has 2 different podcasts, In Touch with iOS, which you can find out more information on through the website intouchwithios.com, or find it either in iTunes or the new podcast application. Also, Off the Charts Horse Racing, horsracing.com, also in iTunes or the podcast application. And he is the president of the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group, when you can find out more information about that group at myscau.org. And I think that is going to do it for the evening, Warren. So you go cheer on those Giants as they're playing the Patriots. And it's going to be ugly. It is almost as ugly as watching my Dolphins this year, which has been really bad.
Either. But I feel your pain.
Not a good time. So, it's not been a good time for the Dolphins this year.
I do feel your pain. Yeah, I do feel it.
So right, man. Thanks to everyone who has joined us this evening, and we will catch you next week, hopefully with all 3 of us right here on the Mac to the Future Go Livecast. Livecast Go. Bye.